Welcome into another edition of the IdahoSports.com Prepcast. I know it's been a couple of weeks, but with the end of the high school sports season, we just needed a couple of weeks to decompress. But now the work begins, getting ready for another school season, the 2021-22 school season. Preparations already underway. So on this edition of the Prepcast, I'm Brandon Baney, joined by Dane Roy, the new athletic director at Owhyee High School. Brand new school opening for the first time in the fall of 2021. Dane, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it, Brandon. Good to be on.
How exciting is it to be a part of something brand new from scratch, from the ground up?
Yeah, it's been crazy, but super exciting, really is. And probably the most exciting part is the coaches that we have been bringing in are incredibly excited as well. So for me, as the new AD, I really appreciate that. It does make my job a little harder because they're always like, "Hey, can we have this? Can we get this? What about this? What about this?" So it's super exciting. It's also a little overwhelming at times, but I think as we go through this summer, things will calm down. But yeah, it is a really unique and wonderful time.
Yes, you mentioned all those great coaches you brought in, and that's where your background is. Prior to becoming the new AD at Owhyee, you were the very successful boys basketball coach at Rocky Mountain High School. What prompted you to make that shift and make that change?
Yeah, it was a super difficult decision. I've loved my time at Rocky, and teaching and coaching has been an absolute blessing. But it felt like it was an opportunity that I could not pass up just because opening a new school may never happen again. I have a really good relationship with our principal. Some of the admin that we're thinking about going out there are incredible people. So it was one of those moves where it wasn't something I was really looking for and like I got to get out. It was an opportunity that I saw that I just couldn't pass up, kind of for my future and where I wanted to go. I've done some really special things with some special players at Rocky, and we've won a couple championships, and so uh, I've done that piece, and I knew I wasn't a lifer when it comes to coaching. It is a grind these days, with just dealing with a lot of things outside of just actually X's and O's, and so yeah, it was one of those things where it had to be the perfect situation for me to leave. Such a great situation I was at Rocky, but this was that perfect situation.
So we've known that. So this will be the first year that Owhyee is existing as a school, and all of the hires were made just in the
Yeah.
past year or so. But we've known for a couple of years at least that this new school was coming to the West Ada district. How far back did you start to think about maybe I'll apply for this and put my name out there?
Yeah, so it was funny in the off season. I did some golfing with some of the people that were thinking about going out to Hawaii, and so it got me thinking like this may be an opportunity. Um, you know, if it all works out, if the right pieces go in the right areas, and we had a really, really good team a couple years ago, and some just awesome, awesome kids that we went through a really fun season. And after that season, it really became apparent that this Hawaii thing may happen. And so it was something in the back of my mind going into this year. Um, and so the really difficult part was when it actually opened up was right in the middle of our season this year. And we were doing great. We loved our kids, and it was kind of a different situation this year to coach. And so I was super excited about that piece. But yeah, it was, the timing was not perfect this year, but the thought process and the wheels were turning. And it just kind of everything really just kind of worked out. And it was awkward at times with our squad this year, but they handled it really well. But yeah, it's been in the back of my mind since, the word came out that it was coming over close to our area.
And so I don't envy the position you were in. Like you said, all these positions opened in the middle of the sports season. So not just for you, but also
Yeah.
all of the coaches that you were able to hire across these different sports. A lot of them had to go to their teams in the middle of the season and say, "Hey, I am moving on, but let's try and finish out what we've started here." I mean, how difficult was that for all of the coaches that you've hired?
Yeah, it was. It was super difficult. Like, our football coach Sherm Blaser had a great thing going out at CUNA, and lucky for him, he was able to complete his fall season before we jumped into it. But we had a few like that. Andy Harrington from Middleton had to address his team about him going to Owhyee, and he had a state championship run. So the good part is these coaches, I believe, were dynamic people, and things that we were looking for is how they build relationships with their athletes. And I think in Andy's situation and Jordan Axe's situation, who's our girls basketball coach, and some others, they were able to sit down and talk with their team and just say, hey, here's the opportunity that's come in front of me. I love you guys. I'm going to finish out this year. We're going to give everything. I'm going to give everything I have for this season. But there is an opportunity that I'm going to take. And I think they handled it really, really well. Their kids, as you can see, like Harrington ended up winning a state championship. So it was a good thing. Like, he's a great person and a great coach. And I think his athletes knew that, and they weren't going to quit on him. Same thing with my team. We had a really good conversation with the Rocky basketball team. Those kids responded super maturely and were awesome. And we, went undefeated in the regular season of the SIC, which if you'd have told me that at the beginning of the year, I would have thought you were crazy. So our kids responded really well too. And so, a lot goes out to those athletes, that these coaches were coaching.
Yeah, let's talk about your team, your final team at Rocky Mountain, just for a quick sec. Back to the
Yeah,
basketball season. I know it didn't end the way you wanted to at state, but you, like you said, dominant regular season. And I'll admit, a lot of the guys that were on your team, I didn't know or recognize because you were pulling up. You were pulling up a lot of first-time varsity players after seeing such a talented graduating class leave 2 years ago. Like Blake Monk, I had never heard of him before, but he really exploded and was one of the best guards and ball
for
handlers
sure.
in 5A.
What a great kid, great story too. And that was it. Yeah, we lost some studs, and then we lose Jaden Hanson, who's potentially the player of the year for us this year. And so guys had to step up, and that was one of those unknowns. And an exciting piece for me is to have all these unknowns, and how are we gonna make these kids successful and play well together. And we had a good sophomore class coming through, and our seniors were in, but they didn't play a lot, and so that mix was exciting for us. But to see kids like Blake Monk, where Jaden Hanson stepped out and he wasn't able to be that point guard, and him to step up and fill that role, was so gratifying. Like, I loved watching Blake play and develop. Him coming into our system as a freshman, he was actually made the freshman club team, which typically, it means they got a long way to go. And for him to go from freshman on the freshman club team all the way up to one of the best players in the state was just an incredible thing to see, and to be a part of as a coach. It'll be one of those stories that I'll share with my coaches for a long time. And so yeah, he was a great addition, a fun story for us for sure.
So a lot of times with new schools, it's kind of the same thing. It's a lot of unknown athletes that are having to step in at the varsity level right away. Do you have any indication of it? Is it going to be a lot of underclassmen in your student population as well as athletically, or are there some upperclassmen that will be at Owhyee right away?
We'll have a few upperclassmen that came through, and it's exciting because those kids have chosen to go to Owhyee. Those kids could have stayed at their old school, the senior class that is. And so we've got a few that have come in. Even on the both basketball teams, we've seen some great leadership out of a couple seniors that are going to be hopefully a part of that program. But it is going to be primarily younger kids that are going to have to play up and play some big minutes against some, physical kids that have done it before. But that's part of the excitement. And what I've seen just, watching a few of these early tournaments. Really, basketball is the only one that's kind of kicked into gear. But just watching the youth that we have and the talent and the skill level, it's going to be, not too long until we're going to make a name for ourselves pretty quick. And so it's an exciting thing for the coaches. I think it's really exciting for those young players to be able to play at a high level. But from what I've seen, like, they're going to be ready, and the coaches are excited about it. Not just this year, but year 2 and 3 and 4, and I think we're going to be able to build something pretty special.
I will say selfishly from my end, I'm very excited that Owhyee is finally part of the mix, because that makes figuring out the standings and the schedules a little
Oh,
easier in that
man.
5A SIC. It was kind of a hodgepodge this past year as we kind of figured things out, especially with the
Yes.
pandemic as well. So tell us, what will the division alignments look like now that Owhyee is officially on board?
Oh man, you're. I don't. I should know. I should memorize exactly, and I could look it up real quick for you. But there's essentially 2 pods in most areas. Some of the sports, like football, will play. We won't be able to play everybody. Volleyball, soccer will essentially, our last 11 games will be our counter games, and we'll have 4 games that will not be counters in our league play, which will be a little confusing. I know in basketball we'll have our pods and we'll play everybody once and we'll play our pod twice. And so we'll have a point system where the games we play everybody once will count as 2 points. The games we play everybody twice will count 1 point each. And so they'll all count. And I love games that count. I can't stand playing games that are just to play games. I'm just a competitive person that way. And so I think we've got some good schedules. I think every sport has a tournament or 2 they can play, within their schedule to kind of get some out-of-state teams. I know Max Preps has been coming in a lot of areas to help seed a lot of these tournaments. So we're trying to create these schedules that will be advantageous. And, for you guys, there's still going to be, I think, some confusion. But, hey, you got a resource here. I'm going to help you out as much as I can, because a lot of that stuff I'm going to be learning it right there with you. So, but no, it'll be exciting. We've got some awesome teams that will get to play this year. The SIC is always loaded.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic to see where you guys stack up right away in terms of the SIC pecking order, because it is year in, year out, pretty consistently the most difficult conference. Tell me a little bit about the facilities. Brand new high school, which means probably some breathtaking athletic venues.
Yeah, that was a big piece. And our coaches have been awesome about Instagramming and doing their social media stuff and getting some pictures out there to people. But it's pretty exciting. It's all really starting to come together now. It looks like our occupancy date will be able to get in there July 1st. And so we can really get into our facilities and start using them. Our football field is beautiful. I love it. I love the look of it. And a lot of the cool piece of it is we've had some experts come in and kind of tinker with, like even our track, like where should we put our throwing pit? Where should our long jump be? So we're not in the middle. Where should our pole vault be? So we're not in the middle of things. So even like, I'm really excited. Our track program won't be, our long jump pit won't be right behind our end zone where a lot of them are. And, there's some safety issues. And so it's, little pieces like that are super cool. I love our gym, coming from our basketball background. It's going to be a beautiful place. And we've got some cool things that are going in there right now. Some video boards that are going to be awesome stuff. We can do some cool hype films and before games and do some really fun things for the kids that I think they'll really enjoy. But the facilities, baseball, softball will be beautiful. We've got some coaches that are already locked into making sure it's beautiful. So I'm excited about it. Yeah, it's one of the biggest pieces I'm excited about is when it all comes together and we're playing on them.
We're talking to Dane Roy, the new athletic director at Owhyee High School. So it's the Owhyee Storm.
Yeah.
Do you know where the name came from? How that all came about?
It was voted on by the public a few years back when Owhyee came about, and it's cool, man. I really like the name Storm, but man, it presents challenges with our mascot. Like we still don't know exactly what our mascot's going to look like. Who's running around in the stands. I've got a lot of ideas, but some of that exciting stuff like the alma mater and our fight song are still in development. But yeah, you tell it like Storm. Like it's super cool. Like the storm is coming. We're bringing the storm. We're the storm troopers. We got all these cool ideas, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, storms a brewing, right? That means
Storms
trouble
are
on the
brewing,
horizon for the opposition.
right?
And then the logo as well. You've kind of got that figured out. I like it. It's kind of a simple, plain logo, but maybe describe it to our audience.
So yeah, it's a circle. It looks real similar to the Carolina Hurricane hockey team if you ever check them out, but a circle with kind of a hurricane storm around it. It's cool, kind of cool. Our coaches are playing off it. Like our football teams put the football stitching right in the middle of it. We can put little basketballs and baseball stitching right in the middle, so they can kind of own that logo. But I do like the simplicity of it. Just we can use it and just kind of tweak it, to match a lot of these different sports and not have to change it completely. So yeah, it's a cool little logo. Our colors are red and dark gray. That dark gray, I love that color. Red, I'm still trying to figure out a little bit, but yeah, I think the colors are really going to pop. We've got some good. The gear is looking really nice. Nike's come through, and we're kind of a Nike sponsored school these first 3 years, and so yeah, some exciting, cool stuff is coming out. And our kids are super excited. They're starting to wear it. We're starting to see it in our high schools and middle schools, and I always like high-fiving those kids when I see them walking through.
Yeah. So you talked about Nike. Is that something that they do specifically for new schools? Is it a program, or was it just something you guys sought out?
Yeah, it's kind of a mix. We need all that equipment and that branding, and so yeah, we just hear bids from different companies, and that was the one that came through from Nike with BSN, and they've been fantastic working with us. So yeah, all of our stuff, uniforms you'll see are all Nike branded, and yeah, so we'll do that for the first 3 years and hopefully for the future. I love Nike, I always have.
So let's talk about this is the newest school in the West Ada School District, which has
Yeah,
been growing and growing and growing for sure.
sure.
How does the opening of Owhyee High School affect the other schools that are already in the West Ada District? For example, like Rocky Mountain, where you just came from. How are those other schools being affected? Where are your students coming from?
Yeah, so primarily, I mean, I would say it's probably 40% Rocky, 40% Eagle, and then maybe 15% Meridian, and then about 5% from the others like Centennial and Mountain View, and we'll get a few kids just kind of moving into our area. But for the most part, those will be the three biggest schools affected by it.
Because I remember talking about Rocky Mountain has been just so dominant in almost every sport that they compete in,
Yeah.
and talking about it'll be interesting to see how Rocky does after they lose some of those numbers, some of those athletes to Owhyee. I think that's going to be one of the interesting things to watch is not only how you guys are competing, but also how the other teams are adjusting as well.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, it always kind of comes like that. I know the growth right now is all around Owhyee. When you go out to that school, it is basically a blank canvas for houses to come in. And so there's nothing but growth for Owhyee. And it'll be a fun, I'm looking forward to those games when we play Rocky and Eagle and Meridian and have that built-in rivalry from some of those kids that originally grew up thinking I'm going to be a Grizzly, and now they got to switch it up and change some of their colors, and we've got to build that pride and that culture at Owhyee where they love and want to come to games and support them and really beat those big dogs until we become it. When you interview these coaches, a lot of it, a big piece after you find out if they're great people and they're great relationship builders is how competitive are they? And I think we've got a great staff of competitors that are coming in that want to build juggernauts like you've seen at Rocky and you see at Eagle and these other schools that have come through before us.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch. In terms of junior highs, is there one specific junior high that's tied into Owhyee, or is it kind of a mix of the different schools?
The junior high, so the middle schools out here will get all of Star, or pretty much all of Star Middle School, and that'll feed. That's a city that's growing just outside Meridian as well. And then we'll get a Sawtooth Middle. A lot of those kids will come to us, and then we'll get a little bit from some others, but those will be the two biggest: Star Middle and Sawtooth Middle.
Okay. Well, Dane Roy, athletic director at Owhyee High School, thank you for taking some time to talk with us. It's here in early June, but I know this is an obviously very busy time for you as you still have some things to hammer out. It sounded like a fight song and mascot. Yeah. I'll be very intrigued to see what you come up with for a mascot idea, because there's
well,
some
I
options.
appreciate that, Brandon. And let me know, man, if there's any listeners out there, if you guys got some great ideas and you want to help out Owhyee, I'm all ears. Yeah, we got a great thing going. So I appreciate you letting me come on, and hopefully we can do it again.
That sounds great. Thank you for joining us. Good luck. And yeah, we'll be talking down the road as we get into the first, everything is going to be the first ever. It's going to be historical, right?
It's going to be awesome. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Thank you, Brandon.
Appreciate it.